Actually, I decided to turn that camera back on while I saw the belt loop. Not that there's anything dramatic about the belt loop, just that I'm now going through what's got to be getting close to a ½ inch of very hard leather. And I just wanted you to be able to see how easy, like I say, I don't make any money on sewing machines, but you will fight everything you do making a holster if you try to make it on a machine that's not designed for it. You know, if you're going to sew one holster for yourself, a couple for your buddies, you can pretty easily get away with hand stitching them. But if you actually want to start turning them out with any kind of quantity, at some point you're going to have to look into sewing them with a machine. And if you're going to do that, like I say, a machine like this is the way to go. Now, keep in mind, like I say, I'm using, let me double check it. This is 350 thread that I'm using with a 277 in the bobbin. And I mean, you can't even use thread close to that thick with like a garment machine or even an upholstery machine. I mean, they just won't handle it. So let me get this belt loop done real fast here. Again, like I say, I don't know if you can get a feel for how thick that is, but that's very close to a ½ inch of very hard leather, and the machine just went right through it. And what I've done, I just sewed. I've studied all kinds of different patterns, trying to find some way to make it look beautiful. I never have really figured out how to make the belt look beautiful. That's how I do it. That's about as good as it gets. It doesn't fall off and doesn't look too bad. So anyway, I'm going to shut the camera down for a minute, get this folded. Takes just a minute because it's so thick to get it folded into shape. I'm going to glue the edge. I'll have that already glued, and then once I glue the edge, when you come back, we'll put our stitch in down the side and we'll see how it holds a gun. Okay, as you can see, I've got just a little bit of, just right on the edges where I'm going to sew, of contact cement. That's what's holding the whole thing together in here. This will just help the edges not to try to separate. And then actually on this holster, what I'm going to do is sew inside of my other edge and just put a box in there, basically like I did here. On other holsters with different types of appearances, I'll sew down the same line. That's another thing about a good stitcher. The timing's so good on them that you can hit the same holes if you want, and other than the fact that you can see double thread, it doesn't really affect the appearance. But on this one, like I say, this is built strictly as a range holster. The guy's a repeat customer. I know exactly what he wants, and he's not going to mind having an extra stitch in there. Plus, what the extra stitch will do at an angle, I'm not going to, normally I would put a cutout type stitch in there to find a trigger guard position, but because he wants to be able to drop 3 or 4 different guns in there, I'm going to just stitch an angled box, and then the angle will hold different guns at different levels, because obviously the smaller the gun, the farther down it'll go before it hits. But if I put in a trigger guard configuration, it's going to limit it much more in the different guns that can go in it. That's probably a little hard to visualize. If I'm not good at explaining things on the camera so well, but I think when you see it, when I shove a a training gun in it, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. The angle will allow him to use different guns seated at different depths based on their size. So anyway, I'm going to put this together, get these edges lined up. The other great thing that the contact glue does is it'll help hold it in place while I'm stitching it, because I mean obviously I'm not going to be able to stick straight pins in it like I was sewing fabric. So let me go ahead here real fast. Again, what I'll do is use the edge of my foot on this stitch, and then I'll just try to follow the contour. It won't be exact, but it'll look pretty good. I think the old saying was good enough for government work. But I'll use my, like I say, my foot as a guide right here, come over 2 or 3 stitches, and then go down and use my foot as a guide again, following the new line back around, and basically just put a box in. I'll go ahead and get that started now. I assume you can see that. All right, let me turn the light on the camera. Hopefully that'll help it just a little bit. And then, like I said, this angle right here will actually catch the trigger guards as it comes down. Let me trim these off, and we'll stick a gun in it real fast. I'm not going to shut the camera off for that. It'll just take me a second to trim these. Okay, now what we have here, this was inspired by a friend of mine. As you can see, it holds the 1911. It allows it to go down in there fairly far, but it also holds the XDM. And you can see it does not, the barrel's right at the bottom, doesn't allow it to go down so far. Smith & Wesson M&P sets in there. The barrel comes down almost to the bottom. And my buddy's all-time favorite, of which he won't hardly shoot anything else, this is a Glock 17. He also has a 26, a 22, gosh, I don't know what else, 29. But as you can see, by making the holster with this angle like this, it becomes a pretty universal range holster. And the harder you shove it in, the farther down it goes, so the more retention it'll have. Sorry about that, I'm off the camera. But as you can see, it holds a lot of different ones. I shut this off. do one last thing, which is put a little bit of polish on it, just so you can see the final product. Like I said, I sold him this for $50. It's a lot of work. He's a repeat customer. For somebody new, I don't know if I'd make one of these for $50 or not. Just, you know, I would have to think about it a little bit, just because, like I say, it's pretty much like constructing 2 holsters at once, and I do have to do all the cutting by hand. But anyway, like I say, I believe in giving a guy a lot of holster for the money. He's a repeat customer. He's bought a half a dozen insiders from me and a couple of pocket holsters, and so, I mean, somebody like that, you know, if I get a regular customer that wants something like this, obviously I'm going to make them a heck of a deal. Anyway, let me shine this up, and I'll come back just for the closeout. Thank you very much. Okay, last clip. Hopefully you think it looks all right. Let me turn the light on again just so you can... there we go. Maybe that'll help you with the shine. I'm going to take these high magnifying glasses off here. Hopefully that'll let you see there really is a nice shine to it. All I do is I use yeah, no, I'm not paid by these people either. I use Phoebing's boot cream. I buy it at the leather store. If you don't live anywhere near Springfield, Missouri, find yourself a great leather store that will work with you. I tell you, I started a couple years ago. I'd never made anything in my life. I'd never made anything out of cloth, leather, anything else. I just literally one day told my wife of 30 years, very patient lady, I said, I'm going to buy a sewing machine and start sewing and make holsters. And I now have a website. I'm going to plug it. I haven't done much plugging, but it's FightNGear, www.fightn, just the letter N, gear.com. It's FightNGear.com. If you would go on and look around, I sell a lot of inside the waistband holsters, pocket holsters. Like I said, I'm not sure what I would have to charge for this. There's not much video here, but there's actually was quite a bit of work that the camera was off. And like I say, you're in effect making 2 holsters when you make one that's completely lined like this, because you're having to work with 2 mirror images. But as you can see, it turned out pretty good. It's a good fit. The Glock sits in there great. Push it down, you got about half a trigger guard, which is what I like. My buddy's a Glock man. I'm an XD guy, but as you can see, either one of us can use the holster just fine. Like I say, we can use several different models in there. I also have an M&P and an M&P compact. I don't have any doubt that they'll fit in there just as well. I don't have a plastic gun for the compact, but that's the M&P, and as you can see, they're all gonna drop right in. I'm sure there's gonna be some people look at this and say, boy, it's a good looking holster, and there's gonna be some people look at it and say, if I couldn't make a holster any better than that, I wouldn't get on the internet. But anyway, you know, if you do like the holster, if you think it looks pretty good, I'd appreciate a comment. Just once in a while, I'd like to know how I'm doing. I'd like to have some idea what you think, whether you think the video was worth watching, whether you think the holster looks pretty good. You know, like I say, it's a good heavy holster. It's not going to bend much. To form it and have the lines boned in and everything, I'd have to make it considerably thinner than this. This would be a very hard one to wet mold and ever really get to have crisp outlines, at least for me. Maybe somebody else could do it. But like I said, I'm going to get off here, get all 3 of these segments loaded up for you, and then like I said, I would like to know some comments, see what you think about the holster, what you think about the shape, the design. I can take this pattern and turn around and work off of it onto another one. There are a lot of patterns that you can buy right at the leather stores. The leather store I go to is Springfield Leather Company in Springfield, Missouri. They're fabulous. They're not giving me a nickel either. I don't make any money off those people. But they've answered just hundreds and hundreds of questions for me, talked to me about different things, gave me lots of good advice. And so I do want to give them a little bit of a plug, even though they're a huge company. They don't need me as a spokesman. I mean, like I say, they didn't ask me to do that. They're not paying me. I just think they're a great company with really friendly people. So anyway, I want to get off here. Thanks a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed this.